miso soup? What is that's in there that is the probiotic?
Well, it's strains of bacteria that actually ferment the food, the soy and the miso. And if you think about your intestinal tract, it's like a big fermentation chamber or a big yogurt maker, if you will. And you've got to have those good bacteria in there if you're going to digest your food appropriately. I mean, think of the probiotics, all of these different bacteria. And by the way, you've got more bacteria in your gut than you have cells in your body. But think about all these bacteria, different species, working in concert with each other as being their own organ in themselves.
Okay, so you can take a supplement that is helpful for all of those different bacteria, or you can eat yogurt, which helps one. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, what I'm saying is that probiotics is more than just yogurt, and I use the milk yogurt analogy just to try and understand how probiotics work. But generally speaking, that's not enough,
okay.
Just eating yogurt.
Okay. So, well, tell us some stories or give us some examples of people who have had their lives changed by making this change in their body and in their health.
Well, with my interest in irritable bowel syndrome, I treat a lot of patients with that particular problem. And irritable bowel syndrome is one of the most common digestive disorders, and it's characterized by abdominal discomfort, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. I mean, you have a digestive tract that never seems to work just right. And the majority of patients, the problem is an imbalance of good and bad bacteria in the gut. And by replacing the good bacteria, you can really aid their digestion. But it's more important than that, because when you have the bad bacteria in the gut, the pathogenic or disease-causing bacteria or yeast, your immune system also becomes activated. You can end up with chronic inflammation at the level of the gut. You can end up with damage to the lining of the intestine and a whole host of downstream problems.
So if somebody has these issues and they say, well, I want to go start to research and take a probiotic, there are probably many different kinds on the market. How do you know if you're going to get one that's actually going to aid in what your issues are?
Well, that's a good question. And if I convinced you today, for example, that probiotics are good, and you
Sounds
go
like
to
a good idea.
You go to the store, you need to. And if you go to the store and you'll see there's single species, one bacteria, multiple species, and the unfortunate thing is there's no good quality control as it relates to the supplement industry in the United States. The probiotic that we recommend is made by a company called New Chapter. Their first ever product was a probiotic. They have a whole line of fermented vitamins and minerals, and we've had very good success with it, and they're the only certified organic supplement manufacturer in the United States.
And this is available at most of the health food stores?
Most of your health food stores.
Sounds good. All right. Well, what do probiotics offer for health benefits?
They offer a lot of health benefits. I mentioned, the digestive tract and getting normal digestion. There's other benefits of probiotics. Things from autism now. There's a link between autism and probiotics, or lack of probiotics, I should say. Allergies, joint aches and pains. What happens is if you have the bad bacteria in the gut, as I mentioned, the immune system's activated, and you get damage to the lining of the intestine. And if you think of your intestinal tract as a selective filter, think about a coffee filter for a minute. So if you were going to make some coffee, you punched holes in the coffee filter, you poured water in, you're going to get all these coffee grinds in the cup. So if your intestinal lining is not healthy, the same thing happens, and we call that leaky gut, and that's where you end up with the other problems outside of the gut.
Okay, what symptoms are most likely to improve when I take a probiotic?
Your digestive symptoms would improve. Gas, bloating, irregular bowel movements would be the most important things, or the first things that you might notice. But you'll probably have more energy. Think about this for a minute. Think about why wine is better than grape juice. Well, it's been fermented, and the wine has 6 times the antioxidants that the grape juice does. So there's something that happens in a fermentation process that extracts a lot more nutrients. So you're getting more nutrients out of your food, and you're making certain that you have a healthy intestinal tract.
Am I going to find this in a capsule or a liquid?
More often than not, it's in a capsule.
In a capsule.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I did find it in a liquid, would I need to keep that refrigerated?
A lot of times you'll see probiotics that need to be refrigerated. Some probiotics are live. And
like
some,
a yogurt, right?
Right. And then some are sort of freeze-dried, and then they get activated once they enter the gut and they reach a certain temperature. And what I tell patients is it's probably better to keep them refrigerated. The main thing is don't leave it in your car in the summertime when it's 90 degrees outside.
Yeah. And is there a certain age where this is appropriate to start introducing it to your health benefits?
You know, I'm an internist, I treat adults, so I don't want to speak towards kids, but there's a lot of good evidence that you really should take a probiotic supplement throughout your life. The only exception would be someone who's eating a lot of fermented foods. You mentioned miso, so if you're eating miso every day and other fermented foods, maybe you don't need to take a probiotic supplement. But the unfortunate thing is most Americans don't. And then we overuse antibiotics in this country, and that's one of the things that contributes to the problem.
So detail some of those other fermented foods for us. I mean, many of our audience won't know, and I don't know, what would be considered fermented that would have these things in it naturally.
So yogurt, we talked about. Kefir or kefir, however you want to say it, is sort of like a liquid yogurt. It's got more probiotics, more than one strain usually. Miso, we talked about. Sauerkraut.
Okay, so where do you see this going in the future, and where do you see research heading to help improve our health in this way?
I was reading an article the other day, and they said that they're projecting $20 billion worth of probiotic sales globally by the year 2010. $20 billion.
Wow.
In the United States, it's going to be, they're projecting close to $5 billion. And that's why you see so many commercials now contains probiotics. And we're just beginning. And I've been following this literature for about 20 years now. And if you look at the literature regarding probiotics and the health benefits from inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, the literature is just going like this.
Okay, well, you are obviously well educated and passionate about this subject and the subject of MSG and aspartame, and I would like you to just take a couple minutes and just talk to our audience about why you feel it's so important and so crucial that they get their body in alignment by not using these things that they shouldn't use and reducing those things from their diet. Did I say that right? Not using the things they shouldn't use, reduce those from their diet, and adding the things that they should add to have a healthy diet.
Yes, and as I mentioned, I think probiotics are number one. You'll never achieve optimal health unless you have the right blend of good bacteria in your gut. So that's step number one. There's a few things that you should avoid: MSG and aspartame, trans fats, fructose. And there's a few things I think everybody should add to the diet. Vitamin D, we're all deficient in vitamin D. This is like a vitamin D deficiency epidemic that I've been preaching about for this past few years. We should all add omega-3 fatty acids to our diet. So those are just some examples of the things that we do for our patients. And the most gratifying thing to me is that patients will tell you, gosh, I feel better.
Yeah. It's
not just giving them a medication to treat their hypertension. I mean, I think we're fundamentally making people feel better.
And these aren't medicines. These are supplements, right? Is that how you would classify them?
Yes.
These are more natural things that you're adding to your diet that you should really have, that your body maybe would naturally make, but because of all the other chemicals that we're that we have an onslaught with in our life from other things that we eat, we're just not getting enough of what we need.
Well, some things you can make and some things you can't. You really can't make omega-3 fatty acids. You have to get that from your diet. It's the same way the fish get the omega-3. So that's why wild fish is better than farm-raised fish, because the wild fish are out there eating other fish and crustaceans and algae. They don't create omega-3s. They actually have to ingest them, and then you have to ingest the fish that's full of omega-3.